Hi, this is Phil. Welcome to the Hope Community Church vlog. I hope and pray you're all keeping well and sane. This is vlog number 22, or the fifth one on our journey through Philippians. We've reached chapter 12, so let's read. Friends, I want you to know that what has happened to me has actually served to advance the gospel. It's become clear throughout the whole palace guard and to everyone else that I am in chains for Christ. And because of my chains, most of my brothers and sisters have become confident in the Lord and have become more daring in proclaiming the gospel without fear. Paul's in prison in Rome. He's there for 2 years. He's under house arrest in a house he rented himself, but he's in chains, probably round his wrists and round his legs. He's got guards with him all the time to make sure he doesn't escape. And whilst in prison, he writes letters to churches in Ephesus and Colossae and to his friend Philemon and also to this church at Philippi. And he says, my persecution has served to advance the gospel. He's saying prison has had the opposite effect to that intended. More people are hearing about Jesus, not less. The church is advancing, not retreating. Because of my imprisonment, the message of Jesus is prospering, not declining. The kingdom of God is profiting, not facing recession. Why is Paul so upbeat about his imprisonment? How can he say the gospel is being advanced because of it? Well, I want to bring 3 reasons. The first is he sees new opportunities. Paul's a respected Roman citizen, a Pharisee, and word has got around that he's in prison because he's been preaching about Jesus. And people are curious. They want to know why anyone of Paul's stature is so fanatical about a dead rabbi. And although he's not allowed to leave the house, he can receive visitors. You can read all about this in Acts 28. And people crammed into his house to hear him preach. Romans, mostly unbelievers, hearing the gospel for the very first time, including, of course, all the guards that were stopping him from escaping, and maybe even neighbours peering in over the fence and listening. Now, of course, we're under a sort of house arrest at the moment, because of a virus lockdown, mind you, not because of persecution, but we can look at opportunities too. Just think about those new conversations that we're having. The new WhatsApp groups that we're all in, the family members that we're now ringing up on a much more regular basis, the fact that we're discovering people who are in real need in our community just down our street, people that we can show the love of Jesus to. Dare we rejoice in our situation? Dare we see the advancing of the gospel because there are more opportunities than ever, maybe because we're spending less time in holy huddles? Paul said in Romans, if we rejoice in our suffering, then hope will not disappoint us. The second reason is, he says, my imprisonment is giving courage to others. One of the things that stops us moaning about our lot, about feeling down about our situation, is to hear stories of people who are much worse off than we are, who are being so courageous, and it brings us up sharp. Lynn and I are supposed to be on holiday this week with family, with a 3-year-old granddaughter who lives in Cayman. And of course, the fact we can't see them is sad. But that pales into insignificance when compared with other people who are going through such trauma. When we hear about the self-sacrifice of NHS staff on the front line who are so cheerful in their situation, doesn't it make you want to rise up and do more yourself, to not let them down? The churches knew Paul was in prison. Maybe he would even have to face Caesar. And it fired them up into mission. And maybe when we look at the persecuted church in the 21st century, maybe that should fire us up to use our freedoms. And the third reason is this. Paul knew that God was in this whole thing. Paul said, he makes all things work together for good to those who love him. And in this chapter 1 of Philippians, verse 6, he says, he who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion. Now, okay, we know he's talking about the assurance of our salvation, but we can also use this verse to refer to the advancing of the kingdom of God. Jesus said, I will build my church, a church so expansive with energy that not even the gates of hell will be able to keep it out. That leaves just one question for all of us. If we believe God is advancing the gospel at this time, then do we want to be in the advance party? Let's be optimistic for the kingdom. Bless you all.